It is a dimension as vast as space, and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call shots. Oh, Todd, there's been so much hype, so much build-up, and we're finally here. We're finally here to do the sequel to our It shots. It Chapter 2 shots, basically. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about this. It's funny because we both obviously, you can go back and listen to the first episode of shots that we did on the first It movie. We both really enjoyed it. So again, the hype has been immeasurable, especially as the casting has come out. We've been seeing these trailers. The movie's finally here. You and I saw this, a couple of days ago at this point?
Yes.
Because we saw it on the same day, right?
Yeah, I think we both saw it on Sunday of whenever this is coming out, like the
right,
the 14th or is it the 15th or some shit?
Yes. So we both saw it on the same day. So if you've never listened to an episode of Shots before, just FYI, it's our movie, film, TV review podcast. And basically the structure that we kind of go for here is we will talk about the movie in a non-spoilery context to start, and then we will give a clear spoiler warning once we get into the spoiler talk. So, Todd, give me your thoughts, your non-spoilery thoughts. It Chapter 2, what'd you think?
I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know, there's... where do I start? The movie had a lot of issues, personally. I don't know if you feel the same way. But
I'm honestly so relieved to hear you say that.
Oh my God, are you the same way?
Because I flat out disliked this movie.
Dude, yes. I didn't want to go that far, but in a way, I almost was just like...
Here's the thing. The more I think about it, the less I like it.
Dude, thank God. Okay. I was so worried because this was going to be such a weird one if we were like fucking like I was like one of us like really loved it because
that's why I've been avoiding talking about it to you off mic because I'm like, man, this is either going to be really interesting, like if one of us like loved it and the other one like, because honestly, I can't think of another movie in recent memory that disappointed me as much as this.
Dude, holy shit! I legitimately was just like leaving the theater. I was like, ugh. Ugh.
This movie left me so fucking cold. And like we'll talk about obviously spoilery stuff later, but like I think I can talk in a non-spoilery context. I was reading things about this movie pre-release from people on Twitter, and a lot of people said stuff that I agree with, and a lot of people came away feeling really positive on the movie, but then the things that people were saying that were worrying me ended up my fears were justified because a lot of people were saying like this movie's too funny.
Dude, oh my fucking God. You can say this without any spoilers. Yeah, every single big scare is undercut by humor.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's
what?
Completely every time there's any sort of anything, if there's any sort of scare in the movie, it is immediately followed by some sort of joke or some sort of like tonal shift. And there are scenes in this movie, and I'll get into specifics when we talk about spoilers. There are scenes in this movie that literally felt like an SNL sketch.
Oh my God, dude.
And I was like, dude, what are you guys doing right now? And there are some effective scenes, and like the thing that really sucks for me is like the casting I think is perfect.
Yeah, really, really love the casting for like all the like the older Loser Club.
Like, they killed it. Especially, I want to give a special shout-out to James Ransone, the older Eddie.
Yes.
He's so good.
Dude, I swear to God, it's like that when I like the way he played the character was essentially, and it's just dead ass the older version of him.
Perfect.
It was perfect.
Like, completely spot on. I mean, they're all really good. It's funny because if anything, I think my least favorite was probably James McAvoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
As the older Bill. I mean, he was still really good, but like all of them were just spot on, I thought. Like even the older Ben, like at first I was a little disappointed because the fan casting was like Chris Pratt.
Either way, like I think overall though he definitely killed it.
Well, this dude Jay Ryan, like, it's funny, dude, because it's in his eyes. Mm-hmm. He has the same eyes as the young Ben, and he just completely, I think, captured like the soul of the. I think everybody just did a phenomenal job. Bill Hader, of course, is a standout. There is, and when I say the movie is too funny, I think I wanna be very clear. There are moments of comedy in this movie that I think completely work and make sense in the context of the film. And then there are moments of comedy in this movie where, like we just said, it completely undercuts the scares. Where this movie is not, it doesn't even hold a candle to the first movie.
Like the first one can be on a list of like one of my like top 10 favorite horror movies of like all time type shit.
Yes,
but this one,
the first movie is legitimately scary.
Yeah.
And there are scenes in this movie where it gave me like flashes of the first one that, like, I don't want to spoil them because they're so few and far between. I'll say this vaguely: the scene that takes place underneath the bleachers,
yeah,
and the scene that takes place in the funhouse. I'm like, okay, this reminds me of the first movie. I want more of this. You know what I mean? And we did not get. I mean, those scenes that I just pointed to are pretty much it.
Even the first scene of the movie is more of a highlight than anything else in that movie.
After the first scene, I was really kind of hyped because it's beat for beat right out of the book.
Well, that's I was like, oh, that's awesome, great, fantastic, and that's actually I saw some people talking about it. It's like cool. That was legit the best part of the movie. It's like,
well, and it's funny too because like there are. One of the things that I do like about this movie is they did do some things that I didn't think they were going to do from the book. Like, it was cool to see certain scenes from the book displayed on screen that I thought they weren't going to do because I thought they might think it was a little too goofy or something like that. Yeah. But they actually pull it off. Yeah. Like, there's the sort of like, you know, everybody kind of has their moment, like their kind of like side quest basically in this movie. What happens during like Richie's like side quest, you know what I'm talking, the big set piece with his.
Yes.
So that is lifted straight out of the book, and I was kind of worried that they weren't going to go for that, but they did. Yeah. And that was cool to see. So, it's just there's so many things that bum me out about this movie. I think even the structure of the film is really has a lot of problems with it because. Essentially, laying out the structure of this movie is the first act is like, okay, we got to get all the losers together. We got to get the band back together, right?
Yep.
And I think the first act is completely solid and works, and that is as it should be. But then you get into the second act, and the second act is, okay, everybody has to go off on their little side quest and find their like token for this ritual, basically, right? And that's where I think the movie really starts to go downhill.
Yep.
Because the whole like the layout of it, and we'll get into specifics when we get into the spoiler talk, but the layout of it doesn't really make sense, first of all, because you know, famously one of the things that the book does is it goes back and forth between the adult and the kid sections, and I think this movie fumbles the ball with that so hard. Like, this movie did not find a good balance of that whatsoever. And I get it. It's a hard job. Like, it's hard to write this script. I understand that. But this movie, to me, like, completely, to the point where I'm like, okay, I like the flashback scenes more than I like the present day scenes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You've assembled this great cast, and you kind of haven't really given them much to do. So that was a little bit of a bummer for me. There's kind of a lot of problems with this movie.
Shit, dude. Tell you where to begin.
And then when you come into the third act, and again, this goes back to the comedy problem. Like, you come into the third act, and like, when we get the final confrontation with Pennywise, spoiler alert, I guess, when you get into that final confrontation with Pennywise, it should feel triumphant and epic, and it feels like a fucking joke.
Bro. Dude, I wish I saw it with you, Because I feel like at the end there, like with the final confrontation, I would have just been looking at you, like, really?
I was
Is this
so
really
like
happening?
I was so flabbergasted by it. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? What is this?" And the thing that they've done is they've basically and here's another thing that really bummed me out about this, Todd, was that up until this movie, like Andy Muschietti, the director, he was like, "Oh yeah, like we're gonna get weird. This is gonna be faithful to the book." They did not get as weird as I wanted them to. First of all,
I'm gonna say this right now. Can I just say this? You can cut it out if you think it's too spoilerly, too much of a spoiler. But why can't these motherfuckers just go balls deep and show me the fucking turtle? God damn it!
Right? Yeah. So yeah, like now they reference him.
Yeah, but fuck that.
Which I thought if you're gonna do that, fine. Like the root or whatever that Mike gets, is he calls it the Maturin root.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess that's fine. And in the book, that is the way that they access this knowledge anyway. So it sort of makes sense. But like, I think that was actually kind of a clever way to go about it. But yeah, I would have liked to see the turtle. Like, if you're gonna go weird, go weird. You know what I mean? But even in the, again, I'm tiptoeing around this, but even in the final confrontation, they could have and should have gotten a lot weirder with it. And I think they played it a little too safe. And part of me's like, man, like, am I going to have to wait until like the 4-hour version of this movie comes out?
Oh God.
For me to actually enjoy it? Because the movie they released in theaters, I was so bummed by this movie. Like, I felt completely cold. Like when the credits roll, I was like, man, this really kind of fucking.
Let me tell you right now, I normally don't get off the seat as quick as I did for this movie.
Basically, what I did was, like, the audience cleared out a little bit. Oh, first of all, I gotta talk about my audience here in a second.
Oh shit!
I got probably top 5 worst audiences I've ever gotten in my life. It was so bad. But basically, I let the audience clear out for a little bit. I did a quick Google search to see if there's any like post-credits tease, and it's like, oh nope. All right, let's get the fuck out of here.
See, here's the deal. I do my Google searches beforehand.
I was just curious because Andy Muschietti was saying all this bullshit, like we could probably make a third one. I'm like, I don't know about all that, but. There's enough lore there to make a third, and I'm like, you're really reaching there if you do that.
I heard some bullshit of them trying to do like a prequel or some shit.
I don't know, dude.
Like, fuck off. I mean, that's another thing. Can I say this? I feel like there wasn't enough Pennywise.
Yeah, well, yeah, there really wasn't. And the movie really bummed me out. There's this fucking woman who was sitting behind us. My wife and I went to see this. First of all, we go to the wrong showtime.
Mm-hmm.
So our showtime was at 3:50, and we showed up a little later than I normally like to. I like to show up a good 15, 20 minutes early. You can get your drink and get your seat and stuff like that. Well, we were running a little bit behind. We showed up a little bit late. It was like 3:48 or something like that when we bought our ticket. So when I asked for our ticket, the person assumed that we wanted to see like the 4:15 showing or whatever. So when we first sat down, I was like, fucking baller, nobody's here. This is awesome. And we picked our seats and everything and sat down, and then like as people started to file in, I was like, oh no. And I looked at my ticket and saw that we were in the 4:15. I was like, fuck. So the movie theater starts filling up. It gets to the point where it's basically at capacity. It was like a full theater. And like people are bringing their fucking kids. I'm talking babies, dude.
Oh, what the fuck?
So there's like, and what's hilarious is like these babies, and I could just feel, I actually felt really under the weather the next day because I could like feel the disease in the room. Like they were like sniffling and sneezing and coughing and shit like that. And I was like, oh, I feel it like encroaching inside of me. And like, what's hilarious though is the babies that were brought to and the toddlers that were brought to this fucking movie for some reason, bad parents, they were more well behaved than the woman who was behind us. Dude, the woman who was behind us, like, Anastasia was getting so mad. She almost said something. And it's funny because
was she like kicking the seat or what?
No, so she was talking through the entire fucking movie. And she was like, from minute one, Like, so from the first scene of the movie, when the first kind of kill happens, she's like, oh, that's gross. Oh, gross. And I'm just like, oh, lady, if this is too much for you, you might as well leave now.
Mm.
And like, she's just talking through every scene, giving her stupid like commentary. And it got to the point where like it was getting so ridiculous, we just kind of stopped being mad at it, and we just kind of like laughed at her, because like every little comment she would make, oh, it was so bad. So I maybe that colored my opinion of the movie a little bit, but I really do think that this movie is a big letdown. Bad audience or no, I really do firmly believe this movie's a letdown. And maybe when the 4-hour director's cut comes out, there will be a good version of this movie exists somewhere. But I honestly, I hate to say this, but I really didn't like it.
Solid 1 out of 10.
It's not like dog shit.
If I had to give it a number rating, honestly, a number rating, 3.5.
I mean, I'd go a little higher than that personally, but here I mean, there are some saving graces. Like, again, the casting is perfect. There are some good scenes. There are things from the book that I'm happy to see made it in and stuff like that. It's not a completely lost cause, but the movie's struggle with tone just so completely like fumbles the ball, and the comedy in the movie completely offsetting what little horror there is. It just totally... this movie's more of a comedy than a horror movie. It really is.
Yep.
This movie was not scary in the least.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, it was a huge bummer. But anyway, let's move into spoiler talk, Todd. I think we have sufficiently given our non-spoilery thoughts. I think it's high time we get into spoiler talk. So, if you have not seen It Chapter 2 and you do not want any of the events of it to be spoiled for you, turn back now. This is your spoiler warning. So, God, I don't even know where I want to start talking about this.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
The scene that we truly were looking forward to.
Yes.
Flopping grandma titties.
That was a disappointment to me, because
that's why I did. It was a disappointment.
Yeah, I was like, man, like, why, like, you couldn't just make it like just the naked old lady?
Like, it would have honestly
had to be this weird cartoonish.
It would have been so much scarier. I'll say this: I do respect that before she goes in that room, it's actually Skarsgård.
Yes, I like that.
Love that shit. Love that it's his voice. Love that it's Pennywise, basically. Then it turns into Mrs. Kirsch or whatever the fuck.
Well, and then like in that last scene, as she's trying to escape, it's dead ass like his face, which was cool. I was wondering that was actually one thing that I was really worried about.
I actually really liked that scene. That scene where he's
it's good.
Yeah.
That was something that I was actually really worried about, because when we saw that shot in the trailer and we saw like that clip of the Mrs. Kirsch scene, like I was like, oh, are they gonna try to like give like a lore to Pennywise?
Nah,
and, like,
it's just Pennywise fucking with people.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. He's just fucking with them.
Yeah.
But am I the only one that felt like there was like way too much CG, like even on like fucking Pennywise, like more so than usual.
Well, there were times where like, again, it almost feels cartoony.
Like, dude, like when they distorted like Pennywise's face, I think when he was talking, when it was Richie's scene.
Yeah, they distort it and they make it look all like curvy.
I'm like, why? Like, just like Bill Skarsgård can do some shit with his face. Like, let him do it.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck?
And honestly, you know what it is, man? It's they got too cocky. They're like, oh yeah, we got this. This is a slam dunk. Like, the first movie had a lot to prove. You know what I mean? Like, when the first movie came out, nobody was expecting anything. Like, they had big shoes to fill with Tim Curry and the 90s miniseries and stuff like that. And now, like, when everybody loved the first movie, they're like, oh, we got this, dude.
Man,
like, we know what this is.
They dropped the fucking ball, dude.
They got too cocky, and honestly, really bummed me out.
Shit. Pardon me, God, the one fucking scene that I kind of enjoyed until this goddamn song came on. The scene with Eddie, like, actually strangling the leper.
Yeah. Yeah, what the fuck was that? Why did the song come on? What?
Dude, I see. Other than that, I love that scene because again, he started showing no fear, so kind of like got
Right.
smaller or whatever. That's cool. I was like, yeah, that's baller. But then the goddamn song came on, and I'm like,
And by the way, it was for like 2 seconds. It's like, why?
there was
What
no
was
need
the
for
need
that.
of that? Here's a perfect example of like where I was like, this feels like an SNL sketch where Eddie is in the bathroom and like Henry Bowers comes and stabs him in the cheek. I was like, oh shit. I was like, man, that's like fucked up. And then like he turns around and stabs him, and then he makes like a joke like, dude, the fucking mullet was like 30 years ago, blah blah blah. And they turn it into like a comedy scene.
Yeah, and like the initial aspect of that. I'm like, oh shit.
When it first happens, I was like, oh fuck. And then they again immediately, this just like we said, they immediately flipped it on its ear and turned it into comedy.
I was happy how they handled that because like everybody was like wondering if he was actually going to be dead because again he's alive if you know that shit.
Yeah.
But I'm happy they kind of did that. I was like, that was one of the first scenes, like one of the first like flashbacks, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was. So it was kind of they kind of like implied in the first one that he was dead or whatever. But
Yeah, 'cause the man fell down a well, so it's like,
yeah, but they confirmed pretty early on because basically, as the movie begins, they kind of like you kind of catch up with everybody.
Yeah.
and you kind of see where they are today and stuff. And
I was really really happy with that initial scene though with under the bridge.
yes,
God,
no,
good
that was
grace.
perfect.
That was perfect.
great.
That was absolutely perfect. And I'm like, it's like let's hit him with the good shit right in the beginning, and it's the downward fucking spiral.
There are scenes in this movie that are absolutely pitch perfect. There really are.
Let's talk about let's start with those. Like, other than like that one we just talked about.
Well, like I said, I really, really liked that scene under the bleachers with the little girl Vicky or whatever,
Yeah, that was a good scene.
where like he has like the little firefly.
And again, that's Pennywise. That's Pennywise being Pennywise. This
Yeah.
this style of Pennywise.
Yeah.
And hello.
Well, and like she turns away and he starts like crying
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And he
absolutely.
prays on her and stuff, and then like you just see her dead ass just like bite her head off.
Yeah, that's the one scene that kind of got me a little unnerved a little bit. I was like, all right, there you go. I was like, cool.
That's what I wanted to see.
And yeah, the Funhouse one was good.
Yeah, the build up with that kid and everything, and how it obviously relates to like to Bill's like to his fear of sort of like not being able to save Georgie and stuff like that. He's sort of like projecting that onto this kid, and
he had to have that whole moment where he came up in his basement.
right.
Which I didn't mind that scene for what it is.
So here's the deal with that, and I guess I'll talk about the third act of the movie before I talk about the second, because that it really started to fall apart to me from the second act.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Like in the third act of the movie, so in the whole like the ritual fails, blah blah blah. Just basically just like it does in the book, but then when you get into like in the book. There is still sort of like a battle of wills or whatever with Pennywise.
Yeah.
But it is so much more like cosmic and epic than it is in this movie. Because basically in this movie, it's like, okay, let's just split all these dudes up again.
They split everybody up again. Everybody has they all have they have other moments now.
Yeah.
Where you got Ben and Beverly get their fucking moments where they tell each other how they feel basically.
Yeah, and they all have to have their little moments where they overcome their fears and they have to blah blah blah. And that's fine because that is here's the deal with that is that is the overall message of it. Like it is your fear. It is the thing that holds you back. And the overall message of it from the book to the movie is about overcoming the things that hold you back. And that's all fine.
But the idea of the final confrontation is just them roasting him is the fucking hilarious.
So stupid.
You fucking clown, you mummy.
And they like you could tell that it was like improv because they like were running out of shit to say. And like he looked so stupid. He was like all small and like flattened like a pancake.
Bro, can I tell you right now? I legitimately audibly laughed.
I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I legitimately laughed at it. Like I kind of was just like, I was like, God
And they reach in and like grab his heart, and he's just like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, he lifted out his little baby arms.
His little baby hands. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" It reminded me of like fucking baby Deadpool in Deadpool 2. I was like, "What is this?" I couldn't believe it. And like you think about in the book, it's like this epic cosmic where fucking like Bill and Richie have to like bite into his like many cosmic weird eldritch tongues and shit. Mm-hmm. And like that didn't happen in this movie. And like
they kind of pushed his little baby hands away.
Yeah. And like it's so weird. And then also like fucking they had to put of course they had to put Pennywise's face on his like true form. Mm-hmm. What a bunch of bullshit that is. That's not his true form.
Yeah, they didn't need that. They didn't need that at all.
Like even in the 90s miniseries, they showed him as like a spider crab kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to look like
even
this kind
then,
of giant.
Wasn't it kind of implied that even that wasn't like its true form?
No, its true form is the deadlights.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
but it manifests itself as the sort of like spider crab thing, and like they have that in here, but it just for no reason at all has Pennywise's face on it.
He's a fucking centaur, basically.
It's so, and it just looks dumb. It just looks fucking dumb. Like, it really bummed, that whole confrontation bummed me out. And then they did the whole thing where like, you know, there's been like decades of the whole like Eddie and Richie shipping, and they've confirmed it in this movie basically.
Yeah.
Apropos of nothing, by the way, because they like they kind of rib on each other throughout the course of the movie, but there's no like implications or anything like that.
I mean, they basically say like, you know, Richie's gay.
Yeah, so they touch on the whole stuff with Richie being gay. And they, you know, we see earlier in the movie, we see the little flashback of Finn Wolfhard carving like R+ into the fence post.
They got that. Then they got the whole, he has the one scene where they start calling him a fairy, basically, in the arcade or the theater.
Yeah, and that, by the way, I think it's fine that they touch on that. And there's been, again, like in the books, like everybody wanted like the Richie and Eddie ship and stuff like that. But the book left it ambiguous.
Yeah.
And here they're just like, oh, let's just like shoehorn that in for no reason. It's, I don't know. I think the only kind of like implication was maybe the scene where they were in the hammock together. Mm-hmm. That's like about it though.
Yeah.
Like other than that, there is no context for them having a romantic relationship whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So that really was kind of like weird and out of place for me. I don't know. It felt a little needless. Like, I liked Bill Hader's kind of like a more emotional side, like after Eddie dies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was solid. Like I didn't mind that at all.
Like I thought he did a good job, and I liked how like emotional he was about it and everything. But I don't know. That I thought was just like weirdly handled. But you know, the big issue, another big issue for me in terms of this, just the way the script was handled, is the second act, where they're all going in and getting their tokens.
Oh my god.
Because here's the deal. I was telling Anastasia this. Some of them just had no problem getting their tokens at all, technically.
Yeah.
Some of them, the only like kind of like Pennywise encounter they had while getting them was just flashbacks.
Yep.
Like Ben, for example, he goes to the school and gets the paper, his yearbook paper, or whatever the fuck it is, or he goes to the school.
Well, here's the deal. He already had it on him.
No, he had that in his wallet, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what was the point of him going to the school? I don't even remember.
It's like the whole point of him going to the school was just to get the flashback, I guess, because the flashback happened at the school.
I literally don't even remember what he went to the school for, because, yeah, he had the paper in his wallet the whole time, right?
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's like they essentially dead-ass had him go to the school just to get the fucking school flashback.
Yeah, so he goes to the school, and then you get a flashback with young Ben. And by the way, it's like, it's weird and unclear, like, when this stuff happens, because...
So, okay, so I'll tell you when it happens. They kind of imply that it's after that fight.
Yeah. So they have a split.
This split happens in the movie.
Yes.
It's a split in the first movie where it's the whole fist fight between Richie and Bill, and then... It's basically that is when it happens.
So they're trying to say that all of the flashbacks happened during that split.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's saying that's and the thing is no, they don't remember it. But then the shit happens with Beverly in the first movie, and then everybody comes back together. Boom.
That's dumb. I just have a hard time believing that all of that happens.
Again, you can have a hard time believing it, but that's how they wanted it. That's how it's supposed to be.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That was what the amount of stuff that happened. I guess that's why it kind of confused me. It's like, so wait a minute, is this happening like before they first confronted? Is this happening after?
So
even though it's supposed to be gone.
Yeah. This all happened before the first confrontation, and after the little split they had, with
that's
Richie
fucking
and Bill.
Stupid.
Yep.
That's fucking stupid. That's absurd. The amount of ground that they cover with these flashbacks, there's no way that could happen in that amount of time. Whatever. Leap of logic notwithstanding, it's like, and then Mike doesn't really even get one. He has a little bit of a flashback, but even that just kind of happens in the library before he gets attacked by Bowers, who is then unceremoniously killed by Richie.
Yep.
It's just so strange, man. Some of them have their kind of journeys they have to go on. Some of them had to, even Bill though. Even Bill doesn't really have he gets the Georgie boat.
Yeah.
And and by the way, did Pennywise just give that to him?
Basically.
Why would Pennywise give him the token he would need for that? That's so dumb.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if Pennywise basically knew what they were doing. Again, Pennywise at this point would probably know.
Well, he knew that the ritual would fail.
Yeah. So it's either way, it's dumb as fuck, but it's also part of me is he's like, yeah, you stupid fucks, come to my home, basically, so I can.
So maybe he was sort of oh yeah, I'll play along with this.
Yeah.
But then why wouldn't Bill recognize that he ostensibly just got?
Well, here's the thing. They all in the movie at least really believe that the ritual is going to work.
Well, no, that's fine.
I know.
But why wouldn't Bill be oh, weird, I just fucking got this from Pennywise?
Well, in a way, he technically did. He was grabbing him, technically.
Yeah.
He was technically grabbing him, but he just assumed that he got away from him. I don't know.
It would have made more sense if his token had to do with his bike.
That's what I thought they were going to go for when they had a little Stephen King cameo.
Which was cool, but
I liked it. I didn't mind it.
But by the way, so if that's not what they went for, why the fuck did he get his bike at all?
Just to have him ride around on it. Oh, shit.
I mean, there's so many issues with this. There's so many holes.
There was one scene that I actually did think was funny. It was the scene in the Chinese restaurant where they first see that kid that ends up getting killed.
Yeah, and he's like, "Fuck you, clown!" Basically.
Well, it's because what does he say to him? He's like, "Now the fun begins," or some shit.
Yeah, he says something like that. And Bill Hader starts screaming at him. He's like, "No, that's the name of your special."
Well, it's that scene I feel worked because it was the kid basically came out of nowhere, said kind of some creepy shit,
Well, there are a few scenes of comedy that I think really were. Another scene that I thought really was funny was when Bill Hader was in the dark in their clubhouse and he's like, "Time to float."
Oh, okay.
And he comes out, he's like, "Remember I used to say that shit and used to dance around?"
See, that scene was actually pretty funny because that actually had a level of almost, it was almost scary for a second because it's he's in the dark and shit.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And then there's there's the mom jokes between him and Eddie were pretty funny, So
yeah.
There's appropriate
there's
comedy.
Stuff that works, but then it's just some of the dumb shit. Again, the main culprit to me was that fucking one with Eddie.
Yeah.
Oh my! I was like, what the fuck?
Well, it's like I said, when that happened, that I literally was like, this is an SNL sketch. I literally feel like you could cut that out, air it on SNL, and nobody would bat an eye.
I swear to God. What other shit bothered the hell out of me?
So I mean, it's
there's a lot. I mean, I can go on for a while talking about shit that bothered me. I was just the main thing. I was definitely disappointed in fuck the granny bothered the shit out of me. I was like, I wish they just did the actual old lady.
You remember when they first go to the sewers, and now it's all like overran, like where they basically had that first confrontation like 27 years ago.
Yeah, it's all overflowing.
It's all overflowing, and then just randomly
she comes out of nowhere again.
She comes out and like drowns her for a second, and just like I'm like, why did that make it into the movie? What was the point of that?
Yeah,
it was like, just another scene to show that Eddie was too afraid to do anything. Is all that?
Yeah,
was.
And then that's because that's something he had to like. That was his journey to like be the fucking first motherfucker to like overcome that.
But they shoehorn that quote unquote journey. By the way, they shoehorn all of that into the third act because there's basically 2 instances of that happening. They have it. They have it happen.
It's weird. It's weird because he's the first one that actually shows bravery,
right?
To where he's actually strangling the fucking leper.
Right.
It's weird that he was so afraid. I'll say that the fucking Stanley Spiderhead thing, that was a little disturbing.
That was pretty good. I liked that. Well, and by the way, like he does the thing with the Stanley head or whatever, where they're asking him to like grab the knife and help Richie or whatever, and he couldn't do it. And then same thing when Beverly was being taken by the fucking granny or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like that's his journey. Those 2 things happen like 10 minutes apart, maybe. Optimistically.
When does Beverly give him that fucking the monster killer? Basically.
At the very outside of the Niebolt house.
Yeah, so he already had it, right?
He was already hanging on to it the whole time. Yeah.
That's
so
weird.
I just thought that was a little cheesy too. It's like he's not 5, dude. Like he's an adult.
That's real shit.
It's like he that kills monsters, blah blah blah. I don't know, man. There was some
just cheesy shit.
There's
my sister said that. Like my sister's like she's like I feel a little too cheesy. I was like, yeah.
I don't know. I ultimately just felt like I just felt completely cold by it.
I'll be honest. I felt like I wasted one of my days off.
Shit. Well, and that's another thing we haven't even talked about. This the movie is sinfully long. It's so fucking long. It's like, why is this movie so long?
Dude, like my schedule was so different like than it normally is. I usually do a 5 days in a row, 2 days off.
Yeah.
In a row. Today, this week I'm on a 2-3 split, so I got like 1 day off and I'm back to work. So I did that on Sunday. So I'm like,
so you were basically out all day.
I was basically out all day, and I didn't even get home till like 6 or 7 p.m.
It's a fucking ordeal, dude.
Dude, I was tired as fuck. Like, cause we had this whole family thing. Like, we went out to eat and shit. Didn't help. I had a couple drinks. So I was tired. I ended up sleeping all fucking day, and I basically woke up to go to work. I'm like, all right, cool.
Dude, this movie is longer than Infinity War.
Yeah.
This movie is only like 12 minutes shorter than Avengers Endgame. And it's like, oh, it's rough. It's like a struggle. I don't know. I felt like coming into this movie, I was really hoping that it was going to be like a faithful representation. I was like, oh man, we're going to see some weird, scary shit. It's not going to even feel like 3 hours. Like, they're not even going to be able to get it all in 3 hours.
Guess what? It felt like 3 hours.
It did feel like 3 hours for sure. I don't know. The movie's not a complete waste of time, but like, I'm never going to see it again.
Oh, fuck no, dude.
I promise you that.
Shit.
Like, that's the thing. I don't necessarily regret seeing it for what it is, like, but if I will rewatch the first one anytime I see it on. I will not rewatch the second one.
Preach. Fucking preach.
So I basically, in my mind, will treat the first one as a standalone thing. Anyway, did you want to... I feel like we've pretty sufficiently tilled the earth here, unless you wanted to add something else.
I think that's about it. I could probably find something if I think about it hard enough, but I'm kind of good.
Yeah, and there's always stuff that you forget to mention, but I feel like we've covered the ground pretty well. So that's it, Chapter 2, guys. I mean,
It's a resounding meh.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks for checking out another fantastic Nerd Bourbon video. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to go ahead and subscribe, leave us a like, drop us a nice comment, or I guess a mean one if that's your prerogative. But until next time, get dunked on.